Jurassic World Dominion is introducing a ton of new species into the franchise, none of which are hybrid dinosaurs, and instead, the film is going to be including new animals that are taken directly from what we know of in the fossil record. But how did these dinosaurs come to be? After the events of the last film, what few remaining dinosaurs that existed on Isla Nublar were not only well documented, but for the most part even numbered after they got out into the wild. And many of these new animals were not on any of those lists. Today I wanted to talk about this and see if we could figure out where exactly these new animals are coming from. What's going on, guys? Hope you're all doing well. Now for today's video, I wanted to talk about many of the new dinosaurs that are getting shown off for Jurassic World Dominion. So far, animals like Therizinosaurus, Atrocirpator, and Quetzalcoatlus are all alleged to be in the new movie, but all of those animals have previously never been listed as having existed exclusively in Jurassic World. Now, of course, the casual audience member may be under the impression that these new species are kind of coming out of nowhere, but believe it or not, there actually is a lot of information that could help us to understand what exactly is going on. Probably the most notable example of us not knowing the full extent of what dinosaurs got off of the island comes from some of the spin-off material that has been released for the films. These include Colin Trevorrow's 2019 short film Battle at Big Rock, which showed us an escaped Pseudoceratops family for the first time, which by the way was not only a new animal in the series, but it was confirmed to have come from Isla Nublar during the events of Fallen Kingdom, and speaking of which, only 50% of that auction was shown in the movie. We know this because during that sequence, the Indoraptor is teased as being a future product that was shown off during the intermission of the auction after the first half had been completed. And let's not forget that dinosaurs like Ouranosaurus and Monolophosaurus have also been shown as existing on the island, so there are definitely a number of select animals that haven't made a physical appearance in the movies just yet that did come from Isla Nublar. So while it does look like we have lists of all of the animals that got off of the island, in reality, there's probably a lot more that we know nothing about. With that being said, I have to admit that the most obvious answer to the question as to where these new creatures are coming from comes from a totally different scene in Fallen Kingdom, where some of the dinosaur DNA that Dr. Wu had is actually picked up and looked over by some unnamed character in the movie. Now, many of the dinosaurs shown here actually have been seen before in the films, but one species in particular, the Dreadnoughtus, is notable for not only being something that we hadn't seen in the flesh just yet, that is also confirmed to be a part of Jurassic World Dominion. In fact, you can even see one in the Cretaceous era prologue that came out. Now, of course, there were hints that this thing was, or at least used to exist in the park during Jurassic World, but I think the fact that we actually have concrete evidence here to support the idea that there are more species capable of being cloned is more than enough to assume that this could be where other species are coming from. Then, of course, there's the whole presence of the new enemies in the movie, BioSyn, or the company that Nedry was hired by to steal embryos from the original Jurassic Park. So they're not only back in Jurassic World Dominion, but with their previously established reputation as a rival genetics company, it's obvious that they could be the ones responsible for all of these animals too. In fact, I'm pretty sure that's what's going on here. Now, what seems to be the most interesting thing to me is the whole idea that for nearly 30 years, InGen were the only ones that ever developed the technology to mine for prehistoric mosquitoes trapped in amber in order to get DNA. You'd think that after all of that time, and Dennis Nedry actually being in BioSyn's pocket, that they would have tried to develop some dinosaur species on their own. If not through mosquitoes, then maybe something like ticks, flies, or some other sort of prehistoric bug, or maybe they wouldn't even have to do that. I mean, there's the whole Jack Horner idea of taking a chicken embryo and reverse engineering it into a dinosaur. So there's a lot of different ways that these new species could come about in the film, but it does strike me as rather odd that we're just now seeing other companies develop dinosaurs like 30 years later. We know BioSyn is responsible for some new animals, but it is interesting that it's taken them this long to actually even reappear in the films, which I'm just inclined to believe that there's some sort of wider story here we don't know about just yet. So as far as where the new species are coming from, I'd say that BioSyn and the DNA that was left behind, or maybe even rescued by Dr. Wu, is where we're getting the new species from. What exactly their roles will be in the movie is something I don't really think we can speculate on just yet, but judging by the last one, it wouldn't shock me if someone is trying to sell them off as exotic pets or something similar in Dominion. Anyways, guys, these are all just my own thoughts on the subject matter. Now, whatever yours happen to be, I'd love to hear them in the comments down below. Now, before I go, I'd like to thank all of my game wardens. as well as all of my InGen executives. I'd also like to thank all of my park workers and InGen hunters as well. Guys, it really means the world to me that you all continue to support what I do, and I never want you to ever forget that. Now, I'd like to thank you all for watching today's video and hope that you all enjoyed the content. If you feel like I deserve it, I'd appreciate the like and hope that you'll consider subscribing if you're interested in hearing from me again. I'll see you all in the next video, guys, and as always, take it easy.